Now also, mainly the white community said this is enough. We've had enough. We get bad publicity. This is our town. We don't want it to be like this. They took out a full-page ad in the local paper. Over 250 people. I was one of them. My family did too. We signed it. Our names were on that. In effect, it says this is enough. We want this to stop. We are law-abiding citizens, and we don't want any of this more to come. But that plus a lot of other things happening. Then the tide began to turn, and we started to heal, and it took a while. Now, I've had personal experiences with health care during the 60s in Macomb and Pike County. I had with the educational system, the public school system, with real estate, with social contacts. Believe it or not, one of the hardest things, my medical records had a big change because the way that a person's name was changed. If you were black, there were one set of names. If you were white, you were another one. I use an example. Suppose Mr. and Mrs. Bill Jones. The wife's name is Jane, and she was a Smith before she married Bill. Then she wasn't Mrs. Bill Jones. She was Jean Smith Jones. She was black. Now, if she was white, she was Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Bill Jones. That's where the record went in my medical record. Black people didn't have titles. We didn't have, no one was called Mr. and Mrs. That changed. And when that 2 years I spent in the Army, I had to be very careful because I didn't want to. I thought before I spoke because I might say something the wrong thing. The main thing was so my commanding officer would know about it where I was stationed. That's the biggest thing. But little things like that would happen because of the things that were going on at the time. But the 1960s was unusual and strange. Now, the hospital system that we have now is one of the best in the country. Southwest Pacific Regional Medical Center. Now, it didn't come here just real easy. I was instrumental in the very start in 1958 getting the ball rolling. I wasn't the only one, but I was one that started. It took 11 years of every kind of political fight, and I've got a scrapbook that thick. I had a nurse that kept up all the newspaper clippings and then saved them for her, and I've got a scrapbook that thick with all that. Everything that happened. And finally, on May the 5th, 1969, Southwest Pacific Regional Medical Center opened. And it was desegregated. Now, another thing that I had is we had two hospitals in Macomb City Hospital and Macomb Infirmary. My family ran Macomb Infirmary, and we were having financial difficulties. We pledged to close our hospital if the new public hospital opened, lay it open, and we did. But it took too long. We were having financial difficulties because it took long, and there we were losing money. Well, Medicare came along in 1967, and we signed up to mainly get some money out of it, and so we could stay open. Well, one of the first requirements that we had to do, we had to desegregate the hospital. That meant that all of the separate entrances, white and black, had to be done away with. There's no designation of race anywhere. The medical records had to change. Everybody's were Mr. and Mrs. and just exactly the same. You look at a medical record, you couldn't tell whether you were dealing with a white person or a black person because the names were not exactly the same way. We had to do that so because we were, you deal with the federal government, then they call the shots. And with Medicare, it was a federal program, so we called it. Now, if any of these things, I'd rather, the time now we have, we may do that maybe 1 month. If you have a question for either one of us or so forth, something that specifically that you'd like to have.
What I'll do is, I'll come on and see. And I'm sure that there's a bunch of questions for both of you, but first, let's, thank you. And,
Ms. Moore, you said that you were a possibility thinker. Describe your life during the time that you had to think about the possibility of what life would be. What was life like when you had to say, you know what I'm saying? You're saying you were thinking about the possibility. Why did you have to think about the possibility instead of living with reality?
We were taught to live outside of our imagination. So because we read a lot, we knew how things existed in other places. We knew what things that we could possibly be. You know what I mean? Because I have, friends that's become doctors, and friends who are consultants, all this stuff. But we knew that it didn't exist here. So when I said we are possibility thinkers, we actually knew that we could do that if we got a good education, but it's not going to happen right here unless the exchange.
What was life like?
As I described earlier in our community, our parents kept us in that community, and so we wouldn't necessarily even have to go downtown because they didn't want us to experience necessarily the racism that existed. Okay, so our community was pretty self-contained, and it was totally segregated. We weren't allowed to go to use any of the facilities. The library, none of the facilities that existed here at that time. And then, as Dr. Clark said, the infirmary hospital during that time, they had a section for black people and a section for white people. A large, room for black people and so forth. So we weren't allowed to use any of the facilities that existed here, our systems or whatever.
Ms. Moore, you talked earlier, you started to talk about the dynamic that existed at the high school between those who did walk out and those who didn't walk out. I don't think you got to finish that.
Okay, well, the dynamic was the ones that didn't walk out, they felt like they should have at that point. But then also what happened was, it wasn't that some of them didn't walk out, it was just that they didn't go to the next step. Because the whole school literally got up and walked out. But as the kids were heading toward the Masonic Temple, and then from there to go downtown, a lot of these kids recognized and knew what would happen to their families, economically, because of where they worked for white families and et cetera. And so those kids didn't go back to the school, but they didn't go any further than to walk out. A lot of them just went home and went to to other family members' houses. And so the ones that didn't go the next step, a lot of them just feel, even to this day, some of them think, well, I really should have done that.
Jackie, would you talk a little bit about Emmett Till and Jet Magazine and how you changed when you saw that picture on the cover of the magazine?
When we were kids, because our parents were very concerned about our safety. So they didn't really sugarcoat things. They just showed us things. And so when the Emmett Till murder happened, and all of those graphic pictures appeared in the magazine, then all the kids in my neighborhood, in my community, were shown those pictures by our parents. And they were explaining, we were young, very young, and it was explained to us what had happened to him and the times that we were living in and all of that. And our parents did that because that was their way of keeping us safe, so we would know exactly what was going on.
Did it change the way you felt about things?
It changed, the pivotal things in my life that changed me was the Brown versus Board of Education in 54, then the Emmett Till murder in 55, and then over in 58, there were some students that walked for the integration of public schools in D.C. You know, and just watching those students and how they were interested in, you know, the integration of public schools and us having conversations about that. And then in '59, there was another demonstration of students in out east about the integration of public schools. Yes, it changed. It changed how you view the world. It changed how you walk in the world, how you live in the world. You know, seeing pictures like that. You know what I mean? Because you knew that you had to be cautious. It changed the way you communicated with people of the other race, as a matter of fact. You know, do I have conversations even later in life? Do I have conversations with them and just tell the truth of how I felt? Or do I have conversations with them and just tell them what they want to hear? You know, so it changed that dynamic in your life, those kinds of things.
Back to the walkout, the ones that went to the second step, did all those students go to Campbell? They end up going to Campbell College in Jackson?
No, not all